place is usually known as the sprint car capital of the world, but today, Knoxville Raceway will be home to the American Dirt Series late models presented by CMF Motors Electrics. It's time for more action. It's round number 7 of the season right on tonight here on RaceSpotTV. I'm Justin Prince, so alongside me is Cam Welsh as we are getting all set to go for what should be exciting action here at this tight circuit. Today's broadcast, of course, presented by Dirtco Media House, Down Under Graphics, Kings of Dirt, Southern Indiana Lawn Care, Chameau Forestry, and B-Durf 1934. Right now in the backdrop, as you're seeing, everyone's getting their qualifying laps together. The top pace during practice, the 18.4 range. As everyone's getting themselves set to go, what should we expect to see from these late models tonight here, Cam?
Well, what I'd like to think is that we're going to get some close action. Knoxville, it's one of those fairground circuits, legendary, of course, been around for over 100 years. They've been racing on this circuit, and I think that it's been a good one for a lot of the fans, and it's good to see it here on the service because we get to see it here in person, everyone putting in their qualifying times. And I think for me with the racing, it's going to be all about how the drivers adapt to the track as it changes.
Yeah, that's the main key, adapting to the changes. Earlier on this week, earlier on coverage from RaceSpotTV featured, of course, these late model cars where a lot of the racing went along the middle to high line, near towards the cushion. The completely different lines. Everyone's driving right where the slick is starting to form up, right on that bottom line. You can see Kilinowski right on your screen trying to get a good qualifying time. Doesn't even break into the top 15. In fact, just in the top 10, I should say, with his first attempt. He's going to try and work his way around the track, sliding as much as he can, trying to get a decent exit, as he's going to get a nice exit down the straight. That time, not better than what he had before. Still, though, a lot of decent times to start off. At 18.637 is your top time from Greg Thompson.
Yeah, and Zach Leonardi was a late join, but he is right on up there. He's only a couple of hundredths ahead of James Ray, and that's pretty much your top 3. He's the only one, Greg Thompson, to get into the 18.6s, which is surprising. They used a lot of that dirt in practice, and that's probably why the qualifying times were so a little bit slower.
Yeah, that is for sure. You see rounding out your top 5, Austin Suttleman and Brandon Peterson, both of them within about a tenth and a half of their times. All the top 5 at least in the 18.7s. As you said, Thompson only won in the 18.6s. But it's now time to get all set to go. There will be 2 heat races tonight. They will be 8 laps each, as it is time to line everyone up for what should be an exciting first heat for this event. Let's take a look at your starting grid, shall we? As it'll be Greg Thompson starting off in the front row, James Ray on the outside, Brandon Peterson and Cody Olson. They're going to be in row number 2 with Terry Joyner and Scott Bellum behind them. Jason Minat and Martin Minat will start behind them. Blake Durfliner, of course, in race control tonight. So it'll be 8 drivers setting up for this heat. It should be an exciting one. And what do you expect to see from these drivers in the early going, specifically to get themselves together for later on tonight?
Well, for me, of course, these guys are going to be fighting for the positions up front for the trophy dash. And I think everyone is just going to want to settle themselves in, get used to the running, see what the track does, let it wear in, see what the other drivers are going to be doing, get used to the people that you're going to be running around. And, of course, if you can go forward, great. If not, well, we'll see how it goes. But everyone should kind of get through to the next round with how many cars are here tonight. Don't know if we're going to have a B main and A main, or a B main qualifying leading to an A main. Either way, I'm just like to think that everyone is just kind of feeling each other out and feeling the track out, how it's going to race.
I gotta think so too. You've seen how they ran in qualifying, and you see a little bit of the slick starting to develop more towards the lower side, or the lower middle at the very least across the track. You can see everyone getting all formed up and getting ready to follow the pace truck, as it should be an exciting heat number 1 tonight here for this action here on this track, half-mile circuit. Of course, you have the bottom section of the track where it's a bit of a hill section, kind of like a brim, so to speak, where it will send you a bit around if you try and use that as a shortcut, trying to go for a slide job to go and battle for position. What kind of challenge do you think that will be for these drivers tonight here in the night?
Well, what I think these guys are going to have to learn, they're going to learn real quick, especially with the latest update on the iRacing services, that this dirt seems to be much more lively, and that means that they're going to have to deal with a lot more ruts, a lot more bumps, and when these guys are going to start throwing these 2,200-pound machines over those bumps and ruts, they're only going to get worse, and that is going to become all sorts of important as these drivers are getting their cars warmed up around the racing circuit.
Yeah, trying to get warmed up. It'll be 2 pace laps to get around this circuit. Of course, a half mile around here in Knoxville, Iowa. 69 degrees is the temperature tonight with 61% humidity for this racetrack as we get all set to go. Who is your favorite really for this first heat tonight?
Well, Greg Thompson, he had that position up front. He was the only one that's qualified in the 18.6s. He should, in theory, be able to run away with it, but you never know. James Ray could get an overshot. And, of course, whenever you take the pole, especially in a short race like this, you typically have a pretty good shot unless something happens of your own making.
Yeah, that is for sure. Gotta make sure you have a good start and don't make mistakes. Don't want to leave things up to risk. Everyone's getting all set to go in turns 3 and 4. Pace truck is off the circuit. Greg Thompson starts off on the inside as the control car. As the green flag's out, we're underway here for tonight's event here at Knoxville. As Greg Thompson got an absolutely beautiful start, James Ray able to use the momentum on the high side to stay in second. Brandon Peterson will move himself into 3rd spot. And in 4th spot right now, Cody Olson trying to hang on to his spot with Terry Joyner in the top 5. Cody Olson, though, getting a great run along the cushion into turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, and Brandon Peterson's working that inside line. He's trying to hold on to something. He's seeing what he can find out there. He elects against it, and Cody Olson will be the one to go to the inside. Washing out is Terry Joyner, as Jason Minat will be able to get the position over him. It's the top 3 that go by as Greg Thompson's completely checked out. It's going to be this battle between Ray, Peterson, and Olson.
Yeah, full 1/10 of a second quicker to start off the race on lap number 2 as we get towards the halfway point. 5 laps to go in the heat for an 8-lap heat in this one for the American Dirt Series late models presented by CMF Motors Electrics. Meanwhile, battling for second, Ray still trying to hang on. Brandon Peterson still trying to make the bottom side work. They're going to go back to single file, mainly because Cody Olson is right at the doorstep, ready to try and chomp at the bit.
Well, lap number 5 completed of 8 is Cody Olson. He's not sure if he wants to do work the outside. He'll rub the outside wall here at the Knoxville Raceway. Peterson seems to be able to have a better entry, but obviously a worse exit as a result of that. Washes a little bit up the track, that MR83 does, as he tries to chase down the 00, but nothing in it as Cody Olson's still not sure if he wants to attack outside or inside.
Yeah, everyone's being very conservative as we're seeing right now. Coming towards the 2 laps to go mark here for heat number 1. Greg Thompson, he's absolutely checked out and is nowhere near anybody. Still in the 18.7s. James Ray, though, was a full 1/10 of a second faster, and now he's starting to pull away from Brandon Peterson. Finally getting the separation he has been looking for this entire first heat. White flag coming out at the flag stand as Thompson going to lead them right on the middle groove, trying to go and dime in the corner a little bit to get as far away as he can to try and get his fastest lap of the race. Ray, he's still staying into the line. Everyone trying to ride with their slick and slick. Brandon Peterson trying to go a little bit lower, but for Thompson, he cruises to a heat number 1 victory here at Knoxville tonight. An absolutely great run for him. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results. Thompson comes out on top. James Ray second. Brandon Peterson rounds out your top 3 with Cody Olson, Jason Minat, Terry Joyner, Scott Bellum, and Mark Minat falling off behind. Mark Minat was the farthest on back, obviously, a full 5 seconds back of the rest of the field tonight. And that ends off an entertaining first heat. Let's go off to heat number 2, shall we? As Zach Leon Hardy is going to be starting off in the front row. Austin Settleman will start alongside him. David Heilman will start in row number 2 with Dan Smolders. DJ Kilinowski will start with Terry Renner, the alien, some may consider him. Jeffrey Patterson along with Todd LeBeau. Jeremy Pinkerton, interesting driver to watch for tonight. He did not record a qualifying time. He'll be at the back of the pack for heat number 2. So Cam, if you're at the back for these kind of heats and trying to pay attention to what could be potential positioning, especially now that there is going to be an invert of 8 for the feature race now set to 100 laps, what is your strategy?
Well, again, it's getting comfortable running around people. You don't get many opportunities to do that, especially in practice. So get yourself warmed up, get yourself ready to rock and roll, and see what this track does. See how it develops. Watch how it develops, because with a 100-lap feature, the track is going to get very worn in very quickly.
Yeah, that is for sure. Even it may be a little bit hot here tonight and of course of the night, but you definitely do still feel to wear it out. You're already seeing the slick winding down a little bit just after that one heat race. Going to be a little more challenging for this heat field tonight. As Leon Hardy leads them down, pace truck is off. Heat number 2's off and away, and a great start for Sullivan, matching up with Leon Hardy right at the start. Leon Hardy just keeps it in front of Sullivan as Sullivan's trying to get a run on the outside. They're going to stay single file heading in turns 3 and 4. And Sullivan, he's going to go a little bit higher, more towards that outside line, trying to keep up with Leon Hardy, chomping at the bit as they cross by the start and finish line to start off this heat. David Heilman right on behind, though, trying to battle on the inside.
Good run in here is Heilman. He's trying his very best to get any bite he can on that fat right rear. Just can't make it work, and powering on that outside is Dan Smolders. Smolders, who went, I believe, quickest in the practice session, is trying to work that outside line as best as he can. Austin Semblin, well, he's trying to chase Zach Leonardi. I think he might just be sitting right now letting a couple of laps tick by.
Everyone's starting to get into a rhythm, coming towards lap number 4. There's 5 laps to go in this heat. You're already seeing able to get by Smolders. He did have one of the fastest practice times at 18.449, but now it's time for put it or show it time, so to speak, with heat number 2. Cross flag sticks coming at the flag stripe as we are halfway through heat number 2. Leon Hardy still keeping it out in front with Sullivan right on behind. He might try and decide to dive it on in behind. Nope, he's going to keep it conservative and try and keep it on that line. But who's not keeping it conservative? Smolders, because he's right on the doorstep for a possible battle for second.
And very good running, I have to say, from Smolders. He's worked his way up. At number 99 machine, getting ready to make the maneuver when he can. I think he's waiting for a door to open up, but Austin Semmelman, an expert, and his super late model is not going to make it easy for him here, as they're going to have 2 to go, excuse me.
2 laps to go. Right now, the top 4 pulling away from the rest of the pack. That is David Heilman right at the end of that train. Look at that from Smolders trying to dive it on in, and he loses a spot because of it. Heilman able to take third spot. White flag is out. 1 lap to go in heat number 2. Settlement and Leon Hardy are going to settle things up in the front. Meanwhile, still side-by-side battle for Heilman as well as Smolders. Smolders, he's going to try diving on in, but he can't get his third spot back. But for Zach Leon Hardy, he's going to cruise to a victory for heat number 2 on top of Austin Sullivan, and a big crash right after the finish line for David Heilman.
Yeah, they did cross the line, though, so he got himself sorted out, and he took that 3rd position. So either way, he gets to the finish, even though the car is a little toast.
Yep, finishing off in 3rd spot, Leon Hardy and Sullivan finishing in the top 2. Dan Smolders and Terry Renner finished off your top 5, with DJ Kilinowski finishing with Todd LeBeau, and Jeffrey Patterson right on behind. Jeremy Pinkerton did not make the start for this heat. With that, we're going to go to a quick commercial break and have a couple interviews before we get things going and prepared off for the rest of our schedule tonight for the American Dirt Series late models presented by CMF Motors Electriques. We'll be right back in just a moment from Knoxville Raceway.
easy, controlled. They're missing each other by an inch, sliding each other. I mean, they know what they're doing, and it's poetry in motion.
There's a fine line between great focus and obsession, and you got to make sure that you're still in the right side of that line where it doesn't start inhibiting your performance when you get here.
You have to know where the edge is, and a lot of times we go over it.
Welcome everyone back to RaceSpotTV's coverage of the American Dirt Series Late Models, presented by CMF Motors Electrics, the official title sponsor of the American Dirt Series Late Models. That's also sponsored by Dirtco Media House, Down Under Graphics, The Kings of Dirt, Southern Indiana Lawn Care, Sherrod Forestry, and B-Durf 1934. It has been an exciting program tonight so far. Just a very quick start, of course, with the two heats. Still, a lot to take note of with the racing we've seen so far tonight here at Knoxville, Cam. Why don't we go to a driver's perspective right now and bring in one of the top drivers for heat number 2, and that was Zach Leonhardi, as we are going to bring him up into the RaceSpotTV booth for a quick interview. Now, in the booth is Zach. You have a copy? And if you do, how are you feeling about your car tonight?
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good right there. I think Austin's better in that track condition right there, but I'm still trying to figure out this internet deal. I've been having problems for 3 weeks now, and I was trying to run on a mobile hotspot right there. It wasn't working too good, so I don't know. I gotta see if I can fix that before this race. And but now the car is really good, and I think this 100 lap, I guess they're changing it to, is going to be pretty good here. Start in the back. I think they're inverting a good bit of cars, so we'll. But
you're breaking up a slight touch at the end there, but I understand what you're saying. Of course, the original scheduled distance was 50 laps. Now with it being 100 laps, how does that change your strategy as a driver tonight for how you drive it, how conservative or how aggressive you are? How does that affect your strategy for tonight? Zach, do you still have a copy? Okay, and I think we lost Zach Leonhardi. Apologies to the RaceSpotTV fans following along for the American Dirt Series late models, as we will get him as soon as possible. But with that, we're going to also have Austin Settleman come in. Cam Walsh is with him right now. Cam?
Austin, thank you. Austin, well, we're running out here. We're running Knoxville, of course. Super late models. I know you only had that one heat out there, but just how you looking as far as the track goes so far?
Track was still pretty narrow there. It's kind of hard to maneuver around a little bit there. Zach was having some connection issues too, so I didn't want to really force the issue there in a heat race, take us both out. So kind of just riding. We have a lot of laps to go here, so but hopefully it widens out. We can put on a good show.
Yeah, it should happen. I mean, 100 laps, and it wasn't that long ago before you guys ran a pretty decent length feature, so here we are again. It's going to be another long run in a super late model. You getting ready for it?
Yeah, definitely. It's more of just seat time at this place for me in these cars, so it's probably my worst track car combination on the sim right now, so I'm just racing it for some laps, and we got the pro qualifier here. I think they're here this Monday, so it'll help for that, and just having fun.
There you go, and you are working hard on getting that for both the sprints and the super lates, right?
Yeah, for sure. A couple second place runs last Monday, so that was a good start. Unfortunately, the strength of field wasn't very good for my sprint car race, which put me behind a little bit, but not a big deal. We'll just kind of keep being consistent here, hopefully, and looking forward to Monday night.
Well, all right, and I mean, just as far as Knoxville goes, one of the newer tracks. No longer the darling new, but one of the newer tracks. Still races pretty good. Still one of those half-mile racing tracks. That inside line, though, tends to wash out pretty quick, gets really ruddy, especially with this latest update. Seems to me like there's a lot more bumps here.
Well, thanks for letting me know, Cam, because I haven't really ran Knoxville much since the update, so another reason why I'm running. So if that's the case, it probably helps me. I'm better here, I think, on the top, so if the line moves up there, I think it'd be beneficial to me, but if it's on the bottom, I'll have some laps of practice down there too.
Well, there you go, but either way, I think that is going to be that, I suppose, so I will then, as always, give you the floor. Anyone would like to give a shout out to, a thanks, whatever you will?
Yeah, of course, Dirt Collective, Team VLR, as always. Blake for doing this, and him and Cody for putting this on with ADS, and Dirt Division, and all them guys. So, and of course you guys for doing this.
Well, Austin Sullivan, thank you so very much. One last thing, where's your brother?
He's probably playing some Fortnite or some other weird game or something. So I don't know.
Duh.
He's scared of the late models.
Oh, what a weenie. So
I know.
Right? All right. Well, either way, Austin, thank you so very much. Server's up, so we'll let you get to it. We'll let you get the hauler going, and we'll see you on the racetrack.
10-4. Have a good broadcast, guys.
All right, so that's Austin Selman, and Justin, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Cam. And as you said, server is up. It's time to get all dialed up. It's going to be 100 laps here at Knoxville. Up next here on RaceSpotTV, as we'll be back in just a moment.
Crazy control. They're missing each other by an inch, sliding each other. I mean, they know what they're doing, and it's poetry in motion.
There's a fine line between great focus and obsession, and you got to make sure that you're still in the right side of that line where it doesn't start inhibiting your performance when you get here.
You have to know where the edge is, and a lot of times we go over it.
This is Circuit de la Sarthe, known around the racing world simply as Le Mans. Since 1923, this track in western France has been home to the world's original 24-hour endurance race. Coupled with the likes of the legendary Indianapolis 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is widely regarded as the world's most prestigious endurance race, and it forms a part of motorsport's Triple Crown. The first race was held on the outskirts of Le Mans back in 1906 and was called the French Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix of its kind. It was run on public roads, with one lap of the circuit stretching just over 103 kilometers. Then, in 1922, the secretary of the ACO, Georges Durand, was given 100,000 francs to facilitate and devise a new race for the region. Durand took this as an opportunity to stage something completely unheard of, a 24-hour endurance race that would push the modern race car to its limits, where manufacturers would prove their worth to the world. Durand's original Circuit de la Sarthe stretched 17.2 kilometers and was entirely comprised of public roads. It ventured into the city of Le Mans and stretched to a tight hairpin before venturing on to the 8-kilometer-long Mulsanne Straight. In 1929, the hairpin was bypassed due to safety concerns with expanding town suburbs, and safety was always a thing that changed and progressed the racetrack over the years. In 1932, the track as we know began to take shape. That was prompted by the construction of a new 1.5 kilometer bypass running from the start-finish area to the new entrance of the Mulsanne Straight, the now infamous Tête Rouge corner. This section featured the fast first curve that remains today, and what would later become the location of the famous Dunlop Bridge. Now, back in 1923, it was a field of 33 drivers that competed in the inaugural event, and their average speed, 57 miles an hour. By 1956, the field had increased to 49 cars, and they were running at nearly twice the average speed, at 104 miles an hour. As the cars became quicker and the competition rose, the track continued to evolve. For example, in 1972, the final section of the track was completely reconfigured to bypass the dangerous Maison Blanche kink. This included the addition of the Porsche curves and the revised Ford chicanes to slow the cars on the run from Annage corner to the start-finish line. These features remain today. One of the then traditional aspects of the race was the Le Mans start. Drivers would stand across to the track where the cars were parked, and then at the drop of the French tricolor, they ran to their car, climbed in, fired the engine, engaged first gear, and pulled away in a cloud of exhaust and burned rubber. Not surprisingly, this was discontinued for safety reasons, as drivers would either rush to buckle their seatbelts, they didn't even bother buckling them at all. Dan Gurney, who together with AJ Foyt won the 1967 race, famously recounted using his knees to steer his Ford GT Mark II on their opening lap at speeds well above 200 miles an hour whilst he fastened his seatbelt. Since 1971, Le Mans has reverted to the more traditional rolling start used throughout endurance racing today. Le Mans will ever be known as the proving ground for car manufacturers and a lifelong dream for drivers. It continues to rank as the pinnacle of endurance racing that inspires similar races to take shape around the world. Things like the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, or the 24 Hours of Spa, or the Rolex 24 at Daytona. But there will only ever be one Le Mans. Experience Le Mans on iRacing. Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website. Before you can get on track, you'll need to calibrate your wheel and pedal set. You'll need to do this in iRacing even if you have already done this using your own controller software. Prior to entering the sim, make sure you've downloaded and installed the latest drivers from the manufacturer's website. Once that's done, follow these easy steps to calibrate your controller. We recommend calibrating in a test session, so pick a car and then click test. Don't go into a practice or official session. The last thing you want to do is have you go on track and crash into another car. Once you're in your test session, click on the options button. You will then see input calibration. This is where your calibration takes place. Start by clicking on the steering button. You will then be prompted to turn your wheel fully one direction and then another. Make sure you place your wheel back into its centering position before hitting done. Now, you'll be asked to turn your wheel 90 degrees to the left. Make sure it's at 90 and hold it there while hitting done. For pedals, click on the pedals button. Here you'll be asked to press the throttle all the way down and then release it. You'll do the same for the brake and clutch pedal if you have one. For the gearbox, you'll first be asked to set buttons for sequential shifting. Once complete, a prompt will ask if you have a H pattern shifter. If not, hit no. If yes, click it and you'll begin to map the gears individually. Once you've completed these steps, you are calibrated and ready to go racing.
Crazy controlled. They're missing each other by an inch, sliding each other. I mean, they know what they're doing, and it's poetry in motion.
There's a fine line between great focus and obsession, and you got to make sure that you're still in the right side of that line where it doesn't start inhibiting your performance when you get here.
You have to know where the edge is, and a lot of times we go over it.
Of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMary at the line.
And welcome back, everyone, to RaceSpotTV for more coverage of the American Dirt Series Late Models presented by CFMF Motors Electrics. It's time to get all set to go for 100 laps of racing here at Knoxville. Justin Prince alongside with Cameron Walsh. Hugo Lees once again helping in the backdrop and making sure everything stays all safe and sound here in beautiful Knoxville, Iowa. It's going to be entertaining racing tonight. 100 laps for the heat. The invert number for tonight for the starting grid will be the magic number 8. As the track conditions you see on your screen, a brisk 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees in humidity as well for the track for this half-mile circuit. It's going to be an entertaining one for sure, especially with what we have seen tonight. 2 quick heats, but already we're seeing some different driving styles really taking place and a lot of patience being played out. Do you see that patience wearing thin throughout these 100 laps tonight here, Cam?
Oh, to me, it all depends on if we get cautions. If we get a good green flag run, then the patience is going to be something we're going to see early on, and then wane thin as laps tick down. If we get cautions, well, that patience is going to run very thin very soon. People are going to be absolute max attack eventually. Probably around the 4th or 5th caution is when we typically see people start getting underway.
As you see the schedule on your screen, then the round number 8 of the season will be taking place at the dirt track at Charlotte. That will be on March the 29th here on RaceSpotTV. Be sure to tune in for that here for the American Dirt Series Late Models presented by CFMF Motors Electric. We'd like to also remind you, of course, that our broadcast tonight is presented as well by Dirtco Media House, along with Down Under Graphics, the Kings of Dirt, Southern Indiana Lawn Care, Chameau Forestry, and B-Durf 1934. But with that, of course, we've seen some very quick times. The times are about the exact same pace as we've seen during the qualifying, about 18.6s to 18.7s for a good half of the fields right now. Greg Thompson on top of the final practice boards before we get to our 100 laps heat final A main, I should say, with Austin Sullivan in second, a 18.653. What should we expect that we, of course, may have not seen from these top drivers, because they haven't had as much of the track to work in, so to speak, where the bottom is just starting to slicken up. What should we expect by the time we reach, let's say, lap 50 for this event?
Well, I think it's going to take maybe about 20 laps before we really get to where we were at the end of that last heat, maybe a little further. But we got to remember, in racing conditions, people are very more defined on their lines because they're looking for lap times, not looking for practice. So I think we're going to see a very laser-focused line right in the middle of the racing track, just like we saw in the heats. But what's going to happen is that there are people who are going to be wanting to be on the move. They are going to be using the inside line, and we'll see how they really get to work themselves out, as it just looks to me like these guys are trying to run the high side, the low side, seeing where the line is at the beginning. But they've got grip right now, so they're going to throw the cars as much as they can.
And we're going to see how they handle that said grip in the early going, and how they handle it as it goes away with the slick widening up as the race goes on. But with that, it's time to get all set to go for your starting grid for tonight's action here at Knoxville Raceway. Known as the sprint car capital of the world, today it'll be hosting the late models and what has been exciting racing tonight. Everyone's getting all set to go, so let's look at your starting grid tonight as we start off with your front row after the invert. DJ Kilinowski starts off with Dan Smulders, one of the fastest cars during the heats and during practice for tonight's event. He'll be starting off in the second spot. Row number 2, Jason Minat will start with Terry Rennert of Angry Dolphin Motorsports. He'll be trying to fuel his Dolphins all the way to victory lane. Row number 3, Austin Suttleman and Cole Newhoffen will start in row number 3. Right behind them for 7th and 8th spots, Greg Thompson and Brandon Peterson, who have both had some decent runs in their first heat. Rounding off in row number 5 for the top 10, James Ray and Jeffrey Patterson. And right on behind them, reaching your dozen point, Terry Joyner, along with Scott Bellum of Parabellum Racing. Zach Leonhardi has to start all the way in the back with the invert with Mark Minat in 13th and 14th spots. That's in row number 7. As that should just about wrap up your top drivers for tonight's A main. Fireworks galore. It should be a firework-filled race, 100 laps here at Knoxville, Cam.
Yeah, and these guys are getting ready to rock and roll. It's 100 laps on the docket, so we're presuming that these guys are just going to rock and roll just like this. Lights on a pace truck. We're getting ready to smash in here in Knoxville.
One quick heads up, Cole Newhoffen, who did not take part in the heat races, he's got an end of the longest line for the start of the event. He'll have to start shotgun for the field tonight. But now, the pace truck, lights are off, getting all set to go. Double file heading out of turn number 4. Kilinowski leads them off to the green flag with Dan Smulders getting a great start on the outside line. They're going to go side by side, sliding through turn number 2 and out of turn number 2 as Dan Smulders gets a great exit and keeps the momentum. And they're going to go side by side still, but collision between the top 2 drivers. Up the track goes Smulders, and that gives Kilinowski the lead still as Smulders has to drop all the way back to 4th. And we almost had trouble in turn number 1 as Greg Thompson got caught up for the split second with Terry Rennert.
Yeah, and it looked to me like Thompson got up into him. We've seen that a couple of times now already. A couple of cars are really leaning on each other very early on. Patience apparently thin here. Greg Thompson, he wants to get through. Leonardi, he wants to get through. And these guys are trying to work the rear of Terry Joyner right now.
Yeah, that is for sure right now. Everyone's trying to settle to a rhythm. A lot of drivers already moving towards that cushion. Joyner, as you see right now, being one of them. Leonhardi, though, with the invert starting off in 7th. He's trying to get a move on right now in the middle of that hornet's nest and trying to get away from that as there are 3 wide, back to 2 wide, back to 3 wide as Leonhardi has to back out of it and gets bumped up the track a bit, in fact. Having to avoid the sandwich as Cole Newhoffen gets right up to him.
Yeah, these guys are really leaning on each other early on, but we have not had a caution yet. Thompson, he's still locked in behind the number 27 of Terry Joyner, and he is trying so very hard to get the inside. He gets the inside. We'll see, will he finally commit? Yes, he will, so he's really working that inner fender.
Speaking of working that inner fender, we're going to have a similar situation up at the front. Jason Minat, after everything, shuffled up to the front, and Austin Settleman's going to battle for the lead now as they go side by side out of 4. Great exit from Settleman on the bottom side. He's going to go below the slick, almost bumping into that brim, keeps it away from the brim, still side by side, right on the left rear quarter panel. Settleman has to back off the gas, though. Minat goes up the track as they are still side by side. Jason Minot not giving a single inch. Very close lap times between these two. 18.843 last time by with an 18.78. 8.78, I should say, for Settleman as they both go back to single file with Settleman still not giving up right on the bottom side of the track. They calm down for a bit. Settleman not being patient for the early part of the pass in this early going here, Cam.
Well, he's got his foot in the door, and that's about all he's going to be able to afford. Every time he makes entry in 1 and 2 is that big old right rear just sits right on the slick stuff, and that means he's got to follow it through. He's going to try to maybe look a little higher left. I think he's going to have to wait until the track wears in a little bit more and he looks to get a good exit off of 3 and 4, and that is when he's going to have the opportunity. Dan Smulders, he's got about a 2-car length over J.J. Kilinowski, so Smulders also wants to be a part of that picture. As Semmelman, he is just hanging right to the inside of that, and he's just waiting for that grip to come in.
Just waiting and waiting patiently. It's going to take a little while to time things out. Minot still holding on to that front spot right now. Austin Settleman in 2nd. Dan Smulders, don't forget about him. He's in the 3rd spot still and closing in bit by bit. Finally got by Kilinowski after their tango up after the first lap, as they are going to be just a little bit behind right now in the top 4. Rounding out your top 5, Brandon Peterson at the moment, as those top 5 continue to pull away from drivers like Zach Leonhardi, who has settled in now into 6th spot. Greg Thompson moves into the 7th spot, but Zach Leonhardi went up the racetrack. Caution flags out.
That is for Mark Marnett, and he took a big wallop out of one of the machines that were up front. I don't know if it was Marnett or Austin Selman he took a bite out of. That was the number 20 machine.
Yeah, looking at the replay, he might have bounced off the wall in one corner, then went spinning around the racetrack into turn 3, went way too fast. He was in dead last, right in front of the leaders. And I think who hit him? It was Austin Selman, who got into him a little bit on the left front. So that is something to watch for. Let's take a look at this replay once again. Selman in the slow motion has to abruptly turn the wheel to the right. Still hits the left rear quarter panel of the car in the middle of the racetrack. Minimal damage for Selman, but man, that was close from being near the end of his day after that.
Yeah, absolutely. He could have really ripped the front end of that machine off, but instead he lives to fight another day with a little bit of front end damage, and so he is going to be able to, he shouldn't have any sort of speed difficulty or anything like that as they set himself up. We have our first retirement. That's Mark Marnett. So, either way, yeah, for Austin Selman, I mean, hey, hasty maneuvering. It's from that number 18, really kind of keeps his teeth in the game.
Keeps his teeth in the game, and he's in a good spot to do so right now. He'd be starting on the outside line with him being in 2nd spot. Going to take a couple laps really to sort things out with the pace laps, of course. And now they go to double file, I should say, right now. Dan Smulders, though, he's had a good recovery. He fell all the way just about out of the top 5. And is now into 3rd spot after getting a little bit tangled up for the slight second at the start of the race with Kilinowski, who's going to be starting alongside him for this restart. Good recovery for the fastest driver in practice prior to tonight's heat races and qualifying. Minette, meanwhile, he's going to be the control car for this restart. Selman, he's got a great spot on the outside. Smulders wants to go. Minette goes as the green flag's back out on the track as we're at lap number 17 for this 100-lap event tonight. As Minette gets a decent start. Selman, though, he's not going to let up, right on the back door. And again, going to go for the slide. Going very low, right at the edge of that brim. Still going to keep up with Minette up at the front. With Kilinowski right on behind. Smulders still fighting to keep the 3rd spot, but drops to 4th. Leonhardi, though, bumped up the racetrack by Newhoffen, as Newhoffen able to get into the top 5. Close call for Leonhardi, as he's going to still be battling for 7th spot.
Yeah, he almost whacked that outside wall, but instead held it together, was able to slow the machine down, get himself straightened out, back on it, and so he's going to be able to complete a pass on the outside from Brandon Peterson. So move him back up to the 6th position. He's going to want to work his way back up to Cole Newhoffen, and I think when he finally gets there, might want to try the inside line next time, as just that far up ahead, it's Dan Smulders versus DJ Kilinowski.
Yes, that battle still continuing to heat up. They started side by side on the front row for tonight's 100-lap feature for the American Dirt Series late models presented by CMF Motors Electriques. And Smulders, he wants to go. He was up to 3rd spot before the last caution. Still trying to find any way he can to get by Kilinowski, waiting for any mistake possible. And that close battle as the top 2 continue to pull away, and Minette and Austin Selman right now with Cole Newhoffen right now rounding out your top 5. Close battle right now, though, between Brandon Peterson and Greg Thompson, developing for 7th spot right now. Thompson, he had one of the top qualifying times for tonight's events. He's wanting to go right now and trying to go as much as he can, but hold on 1 second in front of them. Leonhardi goes right into Peterson, and the caution flag's going to come out possibly. Yes, it will, with Leonhardi around.
And this all started when Leonhardi, he ended up getting just really washed out. Did he end up getting into a touch with Newhoffen again? No, he did not. So this one's pretty much just with Leonhardi just kind of washing out on that racing surface, and that really set him off.
Yeah, we've seen that line a couple times where he just has driven it up the track of sorts that time, trying to get back into the racing groove. Unfortunately for him, there was a car there. Keeps it with minimal damage. The 83 still able to hold on to position, of course, and Peterson, he's still going to be in the top 10 and 7th spot after that, but might have a little bit of damage, of course, to that right side. You're seeing, of course, a great run from Jason Minette so far, able to pull up and away from the rest of the field up the front, along with Settleman so far tonight.
Yeah, and Zach Leonardi has pulled his number 24 down onto the lanes, so not sure if he wanted to see if they could get the crew to work on it or not. Either way, he just wanted to get the crew to take a look at it, perhaps, as he's going to get himself back on the racing track and around. So we'll see if that number 24 feels any better for him as they get themselves all ready to go once again.
Yeah, somebody who's been driving through the field and up into the top 5 as well, Cole Newhoffen. He is going to be starting in 5th spot here for the restart after having to serve an ELL from not making the heats now. So he's having a strong day. A little bit of bumps and bruises here and there, but he's got a fast car tonight as well.
Yeah, and it's been good to see these guys go through as the lights go out on the pacing truck. These guys work their way through the field, and they've got plenty of time. We've only gotten 1/4 of the way here.
As you said, pace truck lights are off. We're going to get L set to go. Double file restart once again. Pace truck is going to go off the circuit. Minette going to lead them down once again. He gets a good jump this time on Settleman as they're going to go single file into turns 1 and 2 as Minette gets a decent run, keeping it sliding around and in front of Settleman. Good start for him. Kiwanowski, though, he's on the bottom side now with Smulders on the top side, I should say, towards that cushion. And that top side along the cushion, it's been working much better as Stan Smulders easily zooms on by and gets himself up to the 3rd spot. As that is up to single file for the top 6 spots. Still double file, though, for Joyner, along with Greg Thompson. That goes back towards single file as everyone settles on in to get into the rhythms.
Yeah, and it looks to me like Settleman is trying that inside run again. He's just right there. He actually had to get it off he had to breathe the throttle just for a moment as the angle of attack from Jason Minat's machine is just a little bit more than Austin Settleman's as they work their way through the corner. Leading in, here comes the 18, but there's that bump we talked about. Watches out his speed. That fat right rear tire, the 2,200 pound machine that is the super late model, catching for the 14, not for the 18.
Yeah, having to back off once again. You're seeing the driver starting to move up the cushion as the track continues to settle on in here on lap number 31. Everyone moving up from that middle lane right near the brim up to that high side as it continues to go single file. Minette continues to lead them around. Settleman in 2nd, Smulders in 3rd, Kiwanowski in 4th. Newhoffen is rounding out your top 5 right now, and they continue to try and separate themselves. Still battling for position, though, is now Leon Hardy with Terry Joyner. He's been trying to keep himself from moving back, but bounces off the wall. He's going to lose a position, moves to the bottom side, and Leon Hardy again overruns the corner in 3 and 4. That has been a major issue all day long so far, all night I should say, for Leon Hardy just going up the track for the apex of 3 and 4.
Yeah, and I think it's simply because you run that outside, you run the backstretch so high that when you go to throw the car, there's a little bit of a rut there, and he ends up sending his own machine up the racetrack as we see Terry Joyner going up top. Terry the Nerd Renner looking to go to the inside. He does not, in fact, have the overspeed to do it. As that actually allows Leon Hardy to check out, perhaps chasing Greg Thompson, who's running inside of Brandon Peterson. But just seems to me that in the exit, on the run up to 3 and 4, there's that little rut right before the entry, kind of right where everyone's been throwing that machine of theirs, and that's kind of catching a couple of these guys out.
It definitely has been catching a couple of guys out for sure. Terry Renner, of course, a fan favorite. Obviously a fan favorite of RaceSpot as well, with that RaceSpot Rocks decal right in his cockpit. But right on, he is now 3 wide out of 3 and 4, and that almost spells trouble. They're bobbing and weaving. Renner's going to spin sideways, saves it, and able to hold on to the line. James Ray is going to zoom on by and take advantage, but that was a close one. Meanwhile, Terry Joyner, he's going to give the position to just gain right on back because he bounced off the wall again on that entry. As Joyner tries to get the best entry, that was a close one.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. These guys, they run the high line like they're asphalt machines, and then they throw the car like a dirt car. Well, as you can see, Terry smacking that outside wall again. You don't have the angle to chuck the rear car. I mean, you're throwing that car from a complete straight as an arrow run to throwing it at almost a 30-degree angle of attack going through the corners, and so you can't just make that space happen, that couple of foot happen as he pancakes again. There he goes, Terry Renert to the inside, the 0-2. And these guys are just continuing to put on a pretty good battle as we're checking out lap 40.
Still a long ways to go. 41 laps to go at the stripe this time. And this is continuing to still heat up. This is just for to get into the top 10. As Joyner and Renner continue to decide things upon. Almost spinning sideways. And Joyner just saves it. That's going to hold up a lot of lost time for Terry Rennert. That could have been a caution right at the 60 to go mark. But now Joyner's going to set himself back on in. Meanwhile, just moving up the field a little bit, Greg Thompson. He's starting to get in a position battle again with Leon Hardy once again. Who is now starting to get up to a rhythm again as the drivers move up to the cushion. Now he's not losing as much time, of course, from going up on that higher line for 3 and 4. And he's in a position battle for sure. This is now for the 6 through 8 spots. Brandon Peterson leading off that group.
Yeah, not that far up the road, the number 8 machine of Cole Newhoff, and he is the only one I've been watching that is trying to take that low line that is dedicated to it anyways. I think what we typically see here at Knoxville, if I'm remembering correctly, people run extreme high side 1 and 2, and then middle to low side through 3 and 4 is Greg Thompson. He's continuing to try to make his press here as he runs high outside 3 and 4. He tries to get a little bit of drag speed coming through. He'll actually have a good shot as Brandon Peterson knocks the outside door, but they hit each other, washes each other out, and that allows Leonardi to enter the picture.
Yeah, this is a very intense battle. Quick update involving Terry Joyner. He just ran off the racetrack, literally. He just put it under pit road after bouncing off the wall again. He's done for the day. That's your second DNF. As you see right there, just too much damage building up. That's what happens when you really just keep on bouncing off the walls. These cars are fairly durable, but then you break the suspension on this, so to speak. And now he's done for the day. That's your second DNF. And now off the track, Jason Minette, meanwhile, has now just absolutely settled in, is starting to pull away from Austin Settleman up at the front. As you're seeing that battle for third still developing up. Dan Smolder still trying to hold on with Kilinowski, who has been his shadow since the start of the race. Still going for position, but look at Newhoffen losing a lot of time trying to slide job it from the bottom all the way up to the cushion.
Well, it just looks to me like he's trying to figure a plan out, Cole, is he's been stuck there pretty much all race long. He doesn't have anybody behind him to worry about, so he's just trying to find his line through as Dan Smolder's run super high line, as I think they're just continuing to find to creep their way up the racetrack. And it's just going to be one of those things that whoever manages to adapt their way through this grip is going to be the one to pull forward. And, well, we got to find out whom that is going to be. Is it going to be Zach Leonardi? Is it going to be Greg Thompson? Or is it going to be your leader, Jason Minette? I mean, I don't think these guys are going to be hitting too much of lap traffic, but there is, in fact, Scott Bellum not that far up the road, but that's just one car.
Yeah, that's just one car of lap traffic to worry about right now. On your screen right now, this is starting to develop up a little bit. As Zach Leonardi was able to zoom by Brandon Peterson up in the 7th spot, but this is now developing for 6th spot. This has been for the past 15 laps-ish now battling as we approach the halfway point of this one. Leonardi, he wants to go and start to catch up to the rest of the leaders in that top 5, but he continues to fight hard, trying to diamond off the corner this time, kind of like an asphalt car for turns 1 and 2. Kind of works, in fact, as he's now going to commit to that lower line now compared to running alongside the cushion, trying to do anything he can to get into the 6th spot as one of the top drivers in these late models for this season for the American Dirt Series.
And something I feel anyways that I've noticed that Kilinowski and Newhofen have both managed to start slowly catching up to Dan Smulders, and I think that's because Smulders is caught up to Austin Selman, who's caught up to Jason Minette, and there's Scott Bellum, just as we said. Lets him go on the inside. He has to straighten the car out. That's going to throw everybody into disarray.
That was a near scarer right there. Scott Bellum has to move all the way up and let everyone else by. That helped a little bit for Jason Minette for sure to pull away from Austin Settlement again. Having to check up on the brakes as Dan Smulders still in that third spot. Kilinowski in fourth, Newhofen in fifth. That was a close one, and now Minette, he's the benefactor, I should say, but he is still having the rest of the field close in behind him.
Yeah, and just from what I'm seeing here, top of these cars getting absolutely plastered with mud and dirt and everything like that. Everyone's just really sliding themselves in there, really wanting to see what this track does. Cole continues to try to throw the machine, but the inside just doesn't seem to work. Simply because on entry, the car has to do a lot of suspension travel over a couple of bumps, and then once it finally settles, it's already scrubbed off any of the speed you would gain. So Austin Sullivan, he is trying to work his way to that through the thick stuff. He wants to see if he can maybe find some grip there. But for Jason Minette, he's just basically holding it wide open at this point, just weighing that outside line.
Yeah, closing it a little bit is Selman, but down the straights, Minette has been really starting to gain more and more time. Everyone trying to just try anything they can and make it stick. You're seeing some of these angles right now, just that left front of Dan Smulders, of course, right through the slick, as he is trying to get closed in on second spot right now. But he's got Kilinowski right on beside him. A bit of a slow up there as Kilinowski goes back to single file. Newhofen, he has been doing this for much of this run the past few laps, diving right on up the track through the slick, up to the cushion, and he's going to do it again right across that brim. It's kind of working, but not really working at the same time because of that lost momentum here.
Plus, it's only a matter of time before he hits a bump, unsettles himself so much that he hits the outside wall. As I don't think he's going to be able to carry that much speed through, but just it's going to be a matter of time before his line becomes incompatible with everyone else's. As Dan Smulders now takes to the inside, he wants to see if he can work on Austin Sullivan. He said, you know what, I've had enough. I'd like to get on by you, and I'd like to see if I can get on through. Just at the same time, DJ Kilinowski tries it on the outside line.
And this is getting intense up at that top side. Settlement gets held up along the outside line for turn number 2. And it's going to be a new second place driver, Kilinowski, able to make the pass. Everyone is starting to get on by. The cushion has worked itself in. And Settlement starting to drop on back from it. As Dan Smulders is going to try and go to the bottom side for turn number 2. Couldn't keep the momentum. He'll go back up to the high side along the cushion for turns 3 and 4, but Kilinowski able to take advantage of the mistake on the exit of turn 2 from Settlement and able to make a pass coming here on lap number 64, approaching the 30 to go mark in the next few moments.
You can see how clean the number 14 machine is, and he has been able to run it all day long with that clean running, as he just put in a 19 flat. Well, an 18.9 went to DJ Kilinowski, so 1/10 just like that, as he is just sitting 0.5 of 1 second behind. Will he be able to close on up? Well, he's definitely got time to do it. I think we've got 34 laps to go.
Yeah, 35, I should say, laps to go. As Smulders trying to get a run right now down the backstretch right now, because Solomon, he's in the 19 flats right now. Much of the field is getting to that point. But if you're the front runners right now, like Minette, along with the rest of the pack starting to pull on away, of course, with Kilinowski, you're in the 18.9 still. Settlement just barely in that range. Smulders was in that range and then some, as he's going to go for the slide through the slick stuff. Trying to cut off Newhofen as he tried to move on to the outside on the cushion as they go back to single file. Still a long ways to go, and still a lot of strategy to decide upon. The top 5 has just taken over and pulled away from the rest of the pack, with Greg Thompson just outside the top 5 with Jacqueline and Hardy. They've been still battling from here on out, but right now the main focus is your top 5, of course. Newhoffen having to really back off the gas pedal big time after that, as Minette still having to hang on because Kilinowski, he is a-coming, and he is a-coming fast. 18.974 last time. This time by at the stripe, 19.1. Fast. These guys are trading lap times, as you're seeing on your interval start right now. Here, approaching 30 laps to go this time by.
And that was because Kilinowski had to back off because he had caught Minette on the entry to one of the corners, and he had to basically dump. And so you can see how high Kilinowski is trying to run that machine. He wants to run super high side, but unfortunately he has the speed. But now this is the problem. You've caught the leader. Now how are you going to get by him? That's what we're going to find out. I think Kilinowski is going to try to do what Semmelman did for the dozens of laps before, to try to maybe run to that inside line, see if he can maybe get some grit. And it might be there this time, so we'll see if Kilinowski can put a challenge on, as there's a good battle for third between Semmelman and Smulders.
Just about to get to that, because Semmelman is starting to struggle up, and Smulders is about to take advantage. Sliding along in turn number 1, couldn't keep the momentum to stick, as he's going to shuffle back and stay in 4th spot. He's going to have to do this all over again. Semmelman almost allowed that door open with the struggles out of turn 2 again. Now he's going to have to try and hang on again, especially with Newhoffen right on behind 2. Smulders trying to get a big time run on the exit down the backstretch, but had to back out of it once again. They still stay alongside the cushion, coming towards 26 laps to go at the stripe, as this is continuing to develop on Kilinowski, still on the back of Minette, right up in front of these guys. Just needing one quick mistake to take advantage of it to come away on top here for the American Dirt Series late models, presented by CMF Motors Electriques.
And we did see earlier on when Austin Semmelman made contact with one of those spinning machines that these super late models, they got some pretty sturdy construction up front. So, hey, there is always the option for DJ. I don't think he's going to want to do it, but at some point he can throw that chrome horn as well. He slides almost into the rear quarter panel of the 14 going through the 1 and 2 as they now work, or well, 3 and 4 anyways. Now they're going through 1 and 2. Kilinowski, I think at this point, he's formulating a plan. He's getting his strategy together. I think what he's going to want to do is he's going to want to get to that outside line. He's going to want to see if he can force Minette to the inside through one of these corners.
Hold on 1 second. You've seen there on your screen, very close call for Dan Smulders just a second ago, with Newhoffen right on his back door. And now Newhoffen lost a lot of time after that close call. Semmelman, meanwhile, he's trying to gain the time he's lost back up, with Dan Smulders still trying to gain up. But hold on, up towards that leader pack right now, as it is approaching Scott Bellum once again. Could this be an interesting situation? You've seen the amount of time that Minette got a slight cushion for a few laps before. Now you have a lap traffic now. This could be getting interesting to see what happens here. Minette along with the cushion. Kilinowski also there still on that high line as they try and be patient. 20 laps to go at the stripe. Kilinowski still at that back doorstep. Semmelman trying everything he can in the kitchen sink, trying to throw everything he's got on the slide jobs and losing time. You see the lap traffic now with Minette having to deal with Scott Bellum. Bellum's just going to stick it right below the slick, in fact, to try and stay out of the way. But Kilinowski, he's going to try and go side by side, has to back out of it with Bellum right there. As it's going to be now Bellum still staying on the slick stuff. Minette going to just zoom on by on the outside. Quick and clean run on the outside line to zoom on by for your top 2 to lap Scott Bellum for a second time in this one. Kilinowski, he still keeps up, and that actually was a very clean run compared to the last time where it was a close call, of course, for 3 and 4 that time. Very quick run, as you see on your screen. The battle still developing for third spot.
Yeah, these guys are putting on a good show between Semmelman and Smolder. Smolder's getting a little bit of the high run as he can perhaps move to the inside. Nothing there. And for Scott Bellum, well, that last time he didn't really have a lot of time to position his car right. And once you disengage your car and straighten it out and unload all the suspension, it really is not a proper driving machine. So they, of course, had that incident. Now, here comes Semmelman, Smulders, and Newhofen. And for Newhofen, how much patience is too much patience? He's been sitting back there for so long, you can almost not even see his passenger side door number. He's going to want to start doing something pretty quick here because we're closing in on only, 14 to go?
Yes, 14 to go at the stripe this time by. As we're approaching lap 87, Newhofen, you have seen, has tried a lot of close call moves, but still cannot find his way past Smulders along with Semmelman. He knows he's got the fast car. It's just about finding space, and he's going to make it 3 wide with Scott Bellum as Scott Bellum's pushed up to the high side. Slide job from Newhofen, and can he make it stick? No, he cannot, as he is going to lose about a couple tenths on Dan Smulders. Meanwhile, you see Semmelman trying to do anything he can to slide through the slick stuff up to the high side along with the cushion on these corner exits. And right now it's just not working the way he needs it to. He might not have enough time at this point. Coming towards now 12 laps to go. Kalinowski, though, I think he's out of fuel.
Yeah, out of fuel. I think fuel might be a problem here as this car pulls to the inside. So we have got, 10 laps to go, and we now have a fuel game as there goes your other car. That's another one without any fuel. That is going to be the car of Dan Smulders. So now we got to see who brought enough fuel for the end of the race.
These drivers, they were joking a little bit before today's race about making this a fuel mileage race. Guess what? It now has become one. Smulders hits a barrier with him out of fuel, and now Jason Minette is absolutely on his own out in the front. Absolute crazy developments here. Austin Semmelman in second. Cole Newhofen, he has a chance to go on the podium in third spot after all of this, as this has absolutely changed everything, especially now with Minette about to reach Terry Renner and Brandon Peterson, who are in 6th and 7th spots, with this becoming the fuel mileage race for the ages. That is for sure.
Yeah, as I'm hearing Jason Minette's engine killed,
Oh
so there
goodness.
you go. There's Austin Semmelman. We'll see if he's got enough fuel to take the win of the race here. Nobody wants to win the race here.
Oh my goodness, I don't know what to say, because that was an absolute big time mistake on terms of calculating the fuel. Just a few laps too short. Coming to 7 to go, Austin Semmelman. He fell to as far back as just outside the top 5 at some points of this race. He's out in front with no one even close to him at this point. An 8-second lead over Zach Leonhardi. I don't even know what to say. 6 laps to go. This race may have just been served on a platter for him if he can keep the fuel up with this 8.5-second lead.
Yeah, he is just going to have to save the fuel as much as he can as Terry Renner gets a little loose in front of him, as he's just got to try to understand, hey, I've got fuel to finish. I need to get that fuel to the finish. He's got Zach Leonhardi 8.5 seconds behind, and will Leonhardi have enough fuel? Will Thompson have enough fuel? Will Peterson have enough fuel? There were a couple of cautions more. They would have been fine, but unfortunately for them, we had a very clean race here. We've only had 2 cautions, and that means that Austin Semmelman is going to be trying to run the fuel.
Trying to run the fuel and conserve it right now. He's running 77 miles per hour. He's still on the gas. He is conserving the fuel as much as he can right now, letting it coast throughout the corners. He has 3 laps to go to make it work, as Zach Leonhardi, he might be in a similar situation, but he is gaining and gaining fast, as Leonhardi might have added enough fuel to make it around 2 laps to go. 2 more drivers out of fuel as it's Terry Renard and Greg Thompson both running out at the exact same time. So it is now only a few drivers left on the track. White flag up in the air now for Austin Settleman. Can he make it last? 5.5 seconds is the lead over Zach Leonhardi right now. Leonhardi, he's down on the front stretch. Austin Settleman, he's coming out of turn number 2. They're passing by the rest of the drivers running out of fuel. Settleman, can he make it last? He might be able to. Checker flag waves as he will win it for the American Dirt Series late models here at Knoxville.
What a surprising turn of events. Just when you thought you've seen it all, Austin Settleman was able to save enough fuel, and he will come home in the first position. Leonhardi comes home second.
I'm absolutely stunned with how that thing's finished off. I'm going to be honest. Absolutely stunned. Fireworks going off. We had a different kind of fireworks in terms of drama. Fuel mileage running out at the end of this one, as only 3 drivers made it to the checker flag. As I don't even know what to say with this one. I think just about everyone else is out of fuel as they crawl around the racetrack. Just an absolutely wild way to finish off tonight's race for the American Dirt Series late models presented by CMF Motors Electrics tonight.
Yeah, and that is one for the ages. I don't think we have ever seen something like that. We've seen cars having fuel issues. That's more of a sprint car situation. That's a sprint car problem, not normally a super late models, but either way, they've managed to work, realize that they were going to need fuel, and they are the ones that saved. So heads up for those guys. Congratulations to Austin.
Congratulations indeed. Unofficial race results on your screen. My goodness. This fuel mileage race, Austin Settleman, he comes out on top in this one, a full 5 seconds in front of Zach Leonhardi. 5.2, I should say. Brandon Peterson, he fell back to as far back as 13 seconds. He still finishes on the podium with this fuel mileage race. Parabellum Racing, we see him getting lapped a couple times. He finds a way to finish into the top 5 in 4th spot. Greg Thompson rounds out your top 5. He ran out with Terry Renard, the alien and one of the fan favorites. He finished 4 laps down at 6. Jason Minette, he led and dominated most of the way. Ran out of fuel 7 laps too short in 7th. As it'll be Cole Newholfen with 9 laps down, running out of fuel as well. Dan Smulders ran out with 10 laps to go. DJ Kalinowski, he had a fast car, ran out with 11 laps to go, finishes off in 10th spot. An absolutely wacky finish for the top 10 with James Ray, Jeffrey Patterson, Terry Joyner, and Mark Minette all being DNFs tonight. Absolutely speechless finishes to this one here on RaceSpotTV, but we'll be back in just a few moments for more coverage with your post-race interviews for the American Dirt Series late models here from Knoxville Raceway. Before we go to commercials, reminder, this is brought to you by CMF Motors Electrics, Dirt Call Media House, Down Under Graphics, The Kings of Dirt, Southern Indiana Lawn Care, and Cheryl Forestry with B-Dirt 1934. We'll be back in just a few moments with your post-race interviews after this dramatic finish in just a few moments.
Crazy control. They're missing each other by an inch, sliding each other. I mean, they know what they're doing, and it's poetry in motion.
There's a fine line between great focus and obsession, and you got to make sure that you're still in the right side of that line where it doesn't start inhibiting your performance when you get here.
You have to know where the edge is, and a lot of times we go over it.
Welcome back to the American Dirt Series Late Models presented by CFM Motors Electrics, the official title sponsor of the American Dirt Series. Tonight was, to say the very least, a very, very spectacularly interesting finish here at Knoxville Raceway. It became a fuel mileage race to end things off, and an exciting finish with Austin Settleman coming out on top for the victory by 5.2 seconds over Zach Leonhardi, who just so happens to be your Down Under Graphics hard charger for the race tonight. Brandon Peterson, he finished off in the top 3. Scott Bellum, he managed to stretch out the fuel and still finished in 4th, 2 laps down. Greg Thompson, Terry Renner, Jason Minette, Cole Newhoffen, Dan Smulders, and DJ Kilinowski rounded out your top 10 tonight with James Ray, Jeffrey Patterson, Terry Joyner, and Mark Minette all being DNFs tonight. And with that exciting finish to this one, we are going to go to your post-race coverage with your interviews, starting off with the man in victory lane for tonight. It is going to be Austin Settleman. Austin Settleman now joins us after making his way through the field tonight. How are you feeling after that crazy finish to this event tonight?
A little confused. It was interesting. I've never really run a race on fuel. I usually lose races on fuel. I didn't know it was going to be an issue, honestly, until the first couple cars started saying they're out of fuel. And then I started just coasting around the bottom and somehow made it. I don't even know what to say.
I'm honest, to be honest, I don't know what to say either, of course, with your VLR machine running, and you were going coasting on the bottom to make it stretch too. So absolutely smart strategy, of course. This was with you being basically fighting to stay in 3rd spot for much of the race to make everything stick. Talk us through how the track was tonight with trying to get yourself to victory lane.
It was interesting. It was very weird. I was really quick early on. I was right on the leader there, and I felt like I was a lot faster, kind of just cruising right through the middle, and he was spinning his tires a little bit. But then once it went to the top, and then after I hit that spun car, I don't know if it was a damage or whatnot, but I just was really bad once the line went up high, and got past there for second, and then was kind of just holding on, waiting for the checkered flag, and then I saw somebody run out of fuel and started worrying about that and got lucky. So that's all it really was, is luck.
Just for curiosity's sake, how much fuel did you have left in the tank when you crossed the start and finish line?
I wouldn't have made another lap. I was just ran out right as I crossed the line.
Oh my goodness, really? Okay, that would have been absolutely interesting for sure if it did end up becoming that situation. But of course, the next race next week will be round number 8. Dirt track at Charlotte's on the schedule for that. How are you feeling about that with your late model?
I don't think I've ever ran there in late model, so it'll be another fun adventure if I'm able to race. I don't really race ADS full-time Thursday nights, just my schedule. So if I can race, I'll run. I think it'll be interesting. Probably around the cushion, but we will see.
Is there anyone you wanted to thank before we let you go for tonight?
Yeah, of course. Dirt Collective, Dirt Division, Team VLR, Off Camber TV, Blake and Cody, they do a great job here. So ADS and you guys for broadcasting for sure.
Thank you very much for the time, Austin. Congratulations on the victory in what became definitely a race for the record books.
Thanks, fellas.
That was Austin Settleman coming away with the victory in what was interesting fashion. A quick correction before we go to our next interview. Coming from Race Control, Scott Bellum has been rewarded with your hard charger for tonight's race. But Leonhardi, he still finished off in second tonight. Cam Walsh, I should say, pardon me, will be with him right now.
The number 24, you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at it with how much mud is caked all over this super late model, but Zach Leonhardi, well, good running. You ended up coming home in the second position and probably one of the most interesting finishes I've been a part of. Your helmet's covered in dirt, the car is covered in dirt, and your fuel tank, at least it seems to have enough fuel to get to the finish.
Yeah, it was kind of funny when we were all talking in the pit earlier on after qualifying about running 50, 60, 75, or 100 laps, and we decided on 100. We kind of joked it'd be a fuel mileage race, but no one actually thought it would. So I wasn't even looking at it. Like, I got kind of lucky because I was running that top, and I was just trying to stay in front of Greg for points. I wasn't really worried about catching the guys in front of me. And someone said in TeamSpeak something about fuel, so I checked, and someone had like 1 lap left because they've been running the top the whole race, and I'd moved down like 10 laps earlier, and I had 11, so I was like 5 laps short, so I had to just putt around there and make 5 laps. I don't know how Austin made it. Like, I got to give him props. I don't know how he made it on fuel running the top for so long, but I got kind of lucky that I moved to the bottom there, and lucky I got a few more spots on Greg because I know he was driving hard trying to get around me while saving fuel. And he ended up running out, so that was kind of lucky for me in points. But the racetrack was really good. I wasn't expecting it to be a fuel deal there at the end, but it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, outside of the fuel deal, I mean, the racing was pretty tough. It was pretty fast. Take me through kind of how the track developed. It seemed like all that really happened is you guys got further and further up the track through 1 and 2, and the middle never kind of went away, but it never really went in, and 3 and 4. Like, until it became that fuel mileage race, just kind of take me through how you were running this track and how comfortable you were running this Knoxville Speedway.
Well, what was interesting is, like, you're right, like, you could roll the middle really straight and get a decent run up off, but it was hard to beat the guys on the top. And once it slicked all the way up there, it built a very small cushion. Like, it wasn't a whole lot. And it was really, really good. Like, you'd run the 18.9s, 18.8s up there until it got all the way up to the fence. And then at that point, it was just too long of a run around the racetrack to make a fast lap. So, like, I'd slowed down enough right after I got around Greg, which obviously y'all probably weren't watching me because I was by myself in P6 and they were racing in front of me. So, but I'd run the top and I'd slow down all the way down to like a 19.2, and I was like, well, there's no way this is the best way around. So I went to the bottom, like right around the very inside, like we're in the beginning of the race, and I was down there in the 1880s running them guys down. At the end of the race, I think the bottom was the fastest lane, but once the fuel ran out, everyone was down there just to make a short lap.
Yeah, and either way, you do go from 13th to 2nd, and congratulations to you for that, sticking with it and realizing it and looking down at the gauge. Apparently that's a part of this. So either way, I give the floor to you, Zach, and you can thank anybody you want, and the floor is yours.
I just got to give a plug to my iRacing paint scheme deal, Leonardi Race Designs. I do paints for everybody. I did the one Kilinowski ran tonight. He started on pole with that pink car. I painted that one for him, so I say just do that. And you can PM me on iRacing or send me an email or Trading Paints PM or anything and get hooked up with me, talk price, and then get it together.
There you go. You are just missing one thing, Zach. First off, you need to thank us. Why? I don't know. I just like to hear it.
Were you there? Were you the one that was announcing? Because I know it switches around a little bit, that race where I joked about putting RaceSpot on the spoiler.
I think so.
I'm going to run it next week. I made a decal, but I didn't run it. Because then I won the next week. So I jinxed it. I'm going to run it. It says second place presented by RaceSpotTV. I made a decal for it.
You see, if you had that RaceSpot decal on, a couple of them, that 5.2 second gap wouldn't have been there. You would have been the winner.
That's right. Well, it was like, I was like, I'm going to run it. And I was like, I'm going to hold off a week and see if I run second again. And then I won. So I was like, well, I can't run it now.
Well, either way, Zach,
next week's last week, I'm putting that thing on.
Yeah, so either way, thanks so much for having in the booth with us and having a good time. We'll see you then.
Thank y'all.
That is Zach Leonardi, the number 24 machine, and Justin Prince. We'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Cam. Definitely a good, solid attitude for sure from him, and somebody that might not be expecting this, but a third-place finish in what would, of course, became a fuel mileage race for Brandon Peterson. Brandon, how are you feeling about coming up on top with the third spot tonight to get to the podium?
Pretty happy to be in the top 3. Car wasn't handling where I wanted it to be, and I got hit the wall a little harder than I wanted to, trying to give room for Greg and Zach to pass by. But I knew that it was going to be a fuel mileage issue. When we got under that caution, I kind of checked my mileage and knew that we were running kind of tight. So pretty throttled pretty heavily through the whole race. And once, I think it was 20 to go, we started hearing people dropping out. I knew I was going to be okay.
So basically, when that caution came out, what were you doing to try and conserve fuel while still being battling for position, so to speak, and as the race continued to go on to make sure you made it to the finish?
Well, during the first portion of the race before the caution, I was holding pretty good in the top 5, but as the track started to slide up, I didn't like riding the top, and the bottom wasn't all that fast, so I slid up top. But under the caution, I knew what I was running because I was throttling the throttle quite a bit for the first third of it, and I had enough mileage to make it all the way. So I just watched where everybody was going and decided what line I wanted to work with. I tried the top for a while, and after like about 2/3 of the race, I slipped back down and held it out there for the entirety.
So basically, when everyone started running out of fuel, basically what was going through your head, basically, and as well, how much were you kind of like looking at the gauge, looking at the track, looking at the gauge to make sure you were a part of them, of course, on top of you, of course, already being on the fuel conserving mode, should I say, for much of the race?
Well, after the first guy said he had 5 laps to go, and I think that was with 20 left, I switched over to check my fuel, see how much I had left. And I still had, I think, another like 41 laps left of fuel, so I knew I was good, but I ended up going to the bottom line because my lap times were actually getting a little bit better, dropping low, so I knew if I went low, I'd have plenty of time, and I think I ended up with about 1.9 gallons left in the race.
1.9 gallons, decent, fair amount of fuel, of course. Guys like Austin Settlement ended up running out at the line, but how do you feel you will do for next week's race? That'll be at the dirt track at Charlotte for the late models.
I think I'll do pretty well. That track's nice and wide, and it gives you a lot of options for lanes. I'm personally more of a bottom driver, so I've done a couple tests out there, and I've noticed that I get some pretty good results as the track wears down. So I'm looking optimistic for that track.
Is there anyone you want to thank for this top 3 performance for you tonight?
I'd just like to thank the ADS for putting this together. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see a 100-lap race, and for it to go 1 caution, that was pretty incredible.
Definitely was incredible. Well, thank you very much for the time, Brandon, and congratulations on the top 3 finish here for the American Dirt Series Late Models.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
And that was an absolutely good performance from him. Smart move when I think about it, too, to know when to conserve the fuel. And as well, Cam Walsh now has your hard charger for tonight, presented by Down Under Graphics. That will be Scott Bellum. Cam?
Hello, Scott. I have a question. What happened?
Basically, I'm usually not a late model guy personally, so a lot of these races for me are just getting seat time. So I basically just pace myself, just try to put down consistent laps throughout the entire race.
Yeah, and kind of the what happened I was getting to. I mean, you were running in the backish of the pack, nothing crazy. You're getting your laps in, everything like that, and everyone started pulling off. Everyone started retiring their cars, and you found yourself moved up a boatload of positions. You ended up coming home in 4th position.
Yeah, I had about 0.5 gallons of fuel left, so I was running the bottom mostly the whole race, so I was kind of on and off the throttle quite a bit.
Yeah, and this Knoxville Raceway, it can be pretty tricky, just as far as trying to get your lines all squared away. The first time that the lead traffic kind of came by, it didn't necessarily work out that well. The second time everyone came by, though, everything worked completely to plan, and everyone was able to get through. It's got to be difficult trying to allow people to get by without interrupting the race too much.
Yeah, I'm finding out sometimes when you get off the throttle and maybe just let the guys sneak by quick, can kind of upset the car, and I'm learning the hard way not to do that.
Yeah, and so either way, hard charging award goes to you in that number 11 machines. So, like to give you the floor, of course. First off, congratulations. Second off, anyone you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, it's all yours.
I'd just like to thank Blake and Cody for putting on the American Dirt Series. I'm having a lot of fun and learning a ton of stuff, so just like to put a big shout out to them.
All right, Scott Bellum, thank you so much for hopping in the booth with us, and we wish you have a good one.
You too, thanks.
So that's the number 11 of Scott Bellum. And Justin, that kind of, I think, wraps the chapter up on this one. I think probably one of the most interesting finishes we've ever seen. I think we can both say that, even though it's our first time broadcasting together. And I think overall, though, good race.
It was definitely a good race and definitely became very entertaining with the fuel mileage. A lot of strategies having to be played out for the final 10 laps. We'll see what happens for next week when the American Dirt Series late models head over to the dirt track at Charlotte. That will be starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time once again on RaceSpotTV. And remember as well, it will be the American Dirt Series Sprint Cars going to be taking the track tomorrow night. That will also be on RaceSpotTV. Be sure to tune in. Starting time estimated for around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Before we go, we'd like to remind you of our sponsors for tonight's event. CMF Motors Electrics, the official title sponsor of the American Dirt Series late models, would like to thank you for taking part and viewing tonight's action, along with Durco Media House, Down Under Graphics, and the Hard Charger Award. Congratulations again goes out to Scott Bellum for the award. The Kings of Dirt and Southern Indiana Lawn Care also are part of your coverage with Chameau Forestry and B-Dirt 1934. We'd also like to thank, of course, Hugo Ruiz, who helped produce things tonight for tonight's broadcast. We couldn't do anything without you, that is for sure. Thank you for your help tonight. Cameron Walsh also was with me in the broadcast booth, Justin Prince. We also like to thank Andreas Warner for the overlay designs. From And Warner N Design, pardon me. Thank you very much for these great overlays, along with the animations for tonight's broadcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, you, the fans, for the American Dirt Series late models here from Knoxville Raceway. We'll see you next week when we head to the dirt track at Charlotte. And be sure to keep clean in that dirty mud. You have a good night here on this beautiful Thursday.